Hey, welcome back to What's Burning. Great to have you with us today. And of course, as always, we are ever so blessed and honored. It is a genuine pleasure to have our guest, Professor Jim Paisley, in because we take modern day events with a historical look back and how the two intertwine and what happened then. Well, there's a good possibility it's happening now.
Exactly.
We just have to learn to remember that. How you doing, Jim?
Hi, buddy. Good to see you.
Great to see you. So, a lot has been going on between the United States and China, and one of the things I don't think people realize is just exactly how much of the United States does China really own?
Really?
And we're going to delve into that topic here on What's Burning, and we'll turn the good professor loose.
All right. Well, folks, I don't know if you heard about it, KB. They had this little thing called COVID, and all of a sudden we realized, wait a minute, where's all the supplies? Where's all the stuff? It's not coming in here.
Right.
Toilet paper was a big problem. But bottom line is, somebody said, well, it comes from China. What? So all of a sudden COVID showed us that supply line worldwide we're very dependent on it. And we've talked a little bit in the past about China buying up land here. Farmland and so on and so forth. But one of the things I thought was interesting is to talk about what they actually do own beyond that, because obviously there's a lot more than what we know about. And I found some interesting information. It came out of the American Security Institute. And one of the things they started right out with is they said that China produces 97% of U.S. antibiotics. So all of you out there taking an antibiotic right now, a very good chance it came from China. They also have about 80% of all the other things that go into American drugs, which basically gives the Chinese Communist Party control over life-saving medicine here in the U.S., which that's kind of frightening. I'll give you an example, too. All of you out there hanging with a terrible hangover today, 70% of the world's acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, comes from China. So think about that for a little bit. Then the area of food. We talked about the land being purchased, but there's another side to that. In 2017, the U.S. imported $4.6 billion worth of food from China. And this comes in the way of soy and other proteins that they provide to us that goes into all the products that we make. So if we don't have that, we can't produce our products. So again, the whole idea of synthetic meats, which, you can have your own opinion on that, but most of that comes from China, and soy protein. And in addition to that, they own Smithfield, which is the world's largest pork producer, the processing plant.
Yes.
So here again, they've got us on the drugs and they've got us on food. And I thought, well, what else? Well, education. Guess what? All these studies and everything you see being done at these universities, most of them are being funded by the Chinese.
Is there a reason for that?
Well, sure, we don't have the money. Yeah, and they do.
Ask a stupid question.
Yeah, and so what they do is they turn around and say, sure, we'll fund your program, professor, but what we'll do is then whatever you find, you give it to us.
Okay.
So as we're coming up with advanced technologies, we're actually handing it over to the Chinese, which, that in itself, you got to scratch your head.
That's, in a roundabout way, reconnaissance, intelligence, and they know where to get us as far as our Achilles heel.
Exactly, and there's actually a law in China that the government requires all the corporations that have bought into the U.S. and investing money in the U.S., that information that they get all goes back to the Chinese Communist Party. So, yeah, that's a kind of a scary thought when you think about it. And, again, when you talk about medicines and all the research for that goes to them, so it's frightening when you think about it.
So we do the work and they get the results.
Yes, exactly. Now, I went on and looked a little bit more. Here's something else that just blew my mind. The entertainment field. Hollywood, right? Well, most people don't realize this. AMC Entertainment, okay, and Legendary Entertainment. They control 8,000 American theater screens, movie theaters. And guess what? They control it. So they can have control over what movies are seen and what the content of a lot of the movies are. Well, it's no wonder that Hollywood is pretty soft on when it comes to talking about the Chinese.
The question is, will we start seeing Chinese propaganda films?
Well, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Who's going to be the winner, right?
Yeah.
Now, I thought it'd be interesting to just run down a short list, if you will, of some of the big companies. Now, like I say, AMC is one of the big ones. A group called Dalian Wanda Group is the one that bought AMC. They bought it for $2.8 billion. Okay, so Marilyn Monroe's probably turning in her grave, right? General Motors. We call it government motors. No. It's General Motors.
Wrong government.
Yeah, but they've cut a deal with a group in China. It's called SAIC. And basically, they partnered with GM, and that is the GM version of the Chinese auto sales industry. So, here again, Snapchat, all of you that are on Snapchat, now I'm technology challenged, I won't even get into detail, but here again, China owns that. And then this is fascinating to me. Hilton Hotels. If you stayed at a Hilton, China owns it. Hilton Hotels. It just blows my mind. They basically bought a 25% stake in Hilton Hotels for $6.5 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I thought, really? And that wasn't enough. They said, well, we need one flagship. We got to have a really neat hotel. And so they bought the Waldorf Astoria. Can you believe that?
In New York.
In New York. Yeah. That is owned by a group out of Shanghai. So you sit there and think to yourself, good grief, what else do they own? General Electric, the appliance division, same thing, all right? So, again, GE, General Motors, your movie theaters, all of these things they have an influence in. And so, it gets much larger than what you think when they're thinking, well, they're buying up property. They're buying up industries as well.
What I have a problem with is when we're trying to fight the good fight when it comes to what we bring into the country and turn around and sell to people. And companies would say, well, it's American made. Is it really American made?
Right, exactly. And
maybe with the labor.
Yeah, maybe with the labor. Yeah, and even then, you got to wonder, because it's cheaper to have it made there and just ship back. It's cheaper to send them whatever raw materials we have and have them process it and send it back to us. I got two more. These will blow your mind. IBM, the personal computer group, IBM, well, sure enough, $1.25 billion invested by China in IBM. And then this one here, all of you out there on vacation, you need to come to Lake of the Ozarks. But if you decide you've got to go south down to Florida or whatever, here's a reason to stay here. SeaWorld is owned by China. SeaWorld. I'm like, what? So... maybe that's how they came up with it.
So you go by more and more of these displays that they have, and you notice, isn't that particular fish or species of animals, sea life, what have you, isn't that something you'd see off the Chinese coast?
Yeah, exactly. That's why they called it Shamu, right? Or maybe, I don't know.
I think they've taken the killer whales, the orca, out of that for obvious reasons.
There you go. And 21st Century Fox. And here again, Marilyn Monroe, she's got to be saying, what? And so, 21st Century Fox, the Chinese, a place out of Beijing, got in there and invested $70 million, which gave them 19% interest in it, and then threw another $235 million in it. And here's the key. In all of these cases, they're not owning the company outright, but they're buying a big enough percentage that they have 2 or 3 members of the Chinese party are sitting on the board.
And of course, the Chinese are buying up real estate in the United States like crazy. I mean, look at the city of Detroit, Michigan, which was falling apart. And so it was a steal of a deal. So the Chinese came in and said, well, we'll just pick that up, no problem, and move on from there. And with what they're doing with natural gas reserves and other things, it's a wonder that we have much of a leg to stand on.
And guess where they're getting the money, okay? Look under your Christmas tree, folks.
Yeah.
Everything you bought came from China, right? And so we're turning around and buying all of their stuff, and we're giving them the money, and then they're turning right around and using that money to invest in our stuff. You know, they're buying into the board of directors of these different corporations and taking control. I mean, we are our own worst enemy in most cases.
Well, and of course, the tensions now between the United States and China, and Taiwan being in the middle of it, it's going to continue to create more and more of a problem. The Chinese are just going to come over and be able to camp out here with all that they own.
Everybody wonders, oh, we're going to get in a shooting war. Heck no, we're not getting in a shooting war. They're kidding. We buy all their stuff. You know, the last thing you want to do is kill off your customers, right? and so,
And your laborers.
Yeah, exactly. You know, now they might turn around and cut off our toilet paper again, which would be a real problem. But, you know, right here you can see they have so much influence in what we depend on a daily basis that an economic war would probably even be more devastating to us than a shooting war.
Well, Jim, I appreciate you taking some time in to give us a heads up, and hopefully folks will do their research, and we'll have you back again real soon.
Thanks for having me.
That is Professor Jim Paisley, and well, how much of the United States is owned by China? Look around, you'd be surprised. Why don't you give a quick shout out to our good friends, Culligan Lake of the Ozarks, the official bottled water of What's Burning. Stick around, we've got more coming up on What's Burning right here on Lake TV.